Penguin Random House, I guess, asked them to like kind of separate out the titles a little bit more to give them more of like breathing room, I guess, or a chance to grow, to really focus on that one. And so they kind of reworked it. But then it ends up being pretty much exactly 2 years since the last one.
You've discussed online, and I've been a part of the discussions because you got this range of people that, like, I guess more in my theater, like your independent authors, your self-published authors. There's a breed of us that will pump out books sometimes once a month. I'm not that guy, but that idea of like you're pumping out these pulp novels and you make a living by selling them quickly, and then you have sort of I guess it's closer to the traditional model where like successful authors probably once a year putting out a novel, if that often, but that's probably the ideal in that case. You're probably closer to that side, but does the rate you write match that, or is that just your publication rate?
I'm faster than my publication rate.
Yeah.
But I'm slowing down. The Call of the Void was actually the longest book to take that I've written. It lasted at least a year, which I never do. I usually finish a book within 6 months and then start another one. 2 books a year. But now I'm in a spot, and see, with self-pub and indie, you could get away with that more, or you can do it whatever you want.
Right.
And work with it. Within traditional publishing, though, their speed is a lot slower, and they've got all this other extra back work to do with it. And so with that, like now I have 2.5 books out on submission. I have a secret project I can't talk about, but like I always have to remind myself, like, oh wait, yeah, I remember about that. So then you're like, well, crap, I've got 2 books out on submission I'm waiting on. Obviously, I'm not going to stop writing.
Right.
And I'm also stressed out about life and the pandemic and,
yes,
a day job, too, that I'm going to take my time. And especially because, like, with The Call of the Void, it's like I think it's the best thing I've ever written. And it took me longer to write it. Not in the sense that, obviously, it was the longest book I've written, too, but, like, I had lots of days where I just couldn't write. Like I didn't have it in me.
Yeah.
Either physically, emotionally, mentally, or whatever. And I hate that. I hate it. It gnaws at you. But it's like you're impaled to the couch or bed or wherever you are. But also, like recently, I've switched to more of doing. I heard an interview with Paul Auster, who's a literary author, I think. I like listening to writer interviews.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not a reader of their genre or definitely a writer in that genre. I read all over the place. I love all kinds of different genres. But he was talking about, if I get a page, that's good. It's a good day if I get a page. I was like, God, 1 page?
Yeah.
That's it? I can write that shit in 30 minutes. But then he said 2 pages was great and 3 pages was a miracle. I was like, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. Just because I guess I set that as my baseline.
Yeah.
If I write 2 pages and I feel like I've done something good, and if I write any more, I don't know if you experience this or have the option to experience this, because you have to because that's where I used to be too. But it's like I get to a spot where I'm like, I know I'm happy with what I've done, and if I move past this, it's going to be shit. It may be workable shit. It may be trash shit that I have to get rid of. So I'm either going to be spinning my wheels for nothing. And at that point, I make a decision. And so with this 2 page a day at least thing, if it's like, okay, on the days where I'm like, I can't fucking write, I can convince myself to do at least 2 pages.
Right. Yes.
And that could be around 300 to 500 words. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It adds up.
And then if I feel it, if it's rolling, fuck it. Okay, let's do 10 pages today. It used to be 1,000 words a day.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, breaking it from 1,000, the fucking number down to 2 pages. I don't know. It feels like I'm working on my art, but at the same time, like I'm in a spot now to where it's like I can't really charge ahead unless I start being a hybrid.
Yeah.
And fuck, I don't even know how to market my books as a traditional author. Like, how am I going to do it? So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's not for everybody, for sure.
right.
I do have some overlap with that. One thing is some medical stuff I had going through. So, like, for a long time, I was living by ghostwriting. So I was making a little bit of money with my own stuff, and then like paying the bills with ghostwriting. It's flipped now, and you know, if I didn't have like hundreds of dollars in medicine from the transplant and all that, I probably could give up ghostwriting comfortably. But you know, I'd like to pay that comfortably and pay the bills comfortably too, so I still do a little bit of it. I get to say no to more things now than I used to, which is nice. But in that time period, especially when rent was coming up, I would be writing like tons of stuff for tons of people, some of it for low prices, like lower than what I should have been taking, but you know, the rent's going to come, so how proud do you want to be kind of stuff. So there would be days, and especially when I was like ghostwriting like romance novels, those things are kind of put out by these like writing mill kind of things, and so they'll pay me as fast as I could put them out, but they have tight deadlines anyway on top of that. So there were literally days that I was writing 10 and 12,000 words a day, but that's literally get up in the morning, write all day, go to bed. And I didn't do that all the time, but I could do it when rent was coming due, and if I get to 60,000 words, I can pay my rent kind of thing. But one thing I learned in that was that a lot of the times, and it's probably me personally, but I think it's a lot of authors, a lot of the times when we waffle on the next choice, we're not necessarily going to come up with something better for more time. We just eventually make a decision, and you can make that decision quick or you can make it later. And I also found, especially as I'm kind of writing some pulpy stuff and things like that, that the faster I make a decision, the truer it is to the character. Because your character doesn't get to sit at the corner of the road where everything's on fire and think, okay, let me take a couple days to think this out and reason what would be the best choice and that kind of thing. A lot of times we as human beings make emotional choices. So if as an author you make a choice quick, it's probably closer to how your character would have to make the choice. So all that to say that kind of philosophically broke me out of writer's block. That idea that like I can make choices quickly. Now again, that doesn't necessarily mean I make these choices quickly and it's a good novel. Also, I reached a point where I'm not afraid to write a crappy first draft, whether it's a short story or a novel. So like I'm not afraid to break the first draft as long as I'm willing to put in the work in the edits. Like if I'm willing to put the time in to edit and rewrite and really put some work into it, then I don't have to be afraid of a first draft. I think a lot of people don't put in the work editing these days, especially in the indie scene. You know, you'll end up with some poorly edited stories and that kind of thing, but that's that back end work. But with the medicine and stuff, with the way it messes with my head, I found myself really getting like messed up by word counts. So some of it was just even the numbers messed me up. Like if I stopped at 3,636 pages, like that number drives me insane. Like I can't stop thinking about it. You know,
nails on a chalkboard.
Right.
Oh fuck.
And then I also found, and I think a lot of authors get this, like I'll have a really great Monday, and then like Tuesday's a little less, and then Wednesday I have to do editing. So even though I'm doing writing work, it quote unquote doesn't count because I didn't put words down. And so then I get to Thursday and Friday and I already feel defeated before I start writing because I'm not going to make my weekly goal. So I tried to separate myself from word count as much as I could. So I have like my minimums, and then I don't track day to day. So I can't tell you what I did on Monday. And for that reason, Thursday and Friday aren't hinged on any other day. I just do what I can, and I've done a better job of like giving myself grace. You know, this idea that like I haven't failed because I didn't write today, and in some cases I even plan days not to write, like take a weekend off or take holidays off or that kind of thing to just recharge myself, so I'm not just spewing on paper just to be able to say that I did it or that kind of thing. So obviously that always constantly evolves. Every author's trying to figure out their path there.
You're trying to figure out the process to where you're at that fucking sweet spot of I feel like I'm doing a good significant amount of work versus I'm driving myself insane. Like you don't want you want that fine line, and it's hard, and it always moves. It always seems to move. it changes. It's like, this isn't working anymore. I got to do something different.